Historians of Reddit, what is the biggest FU moment in history? A pirate known as Jane Leffert had a bounty of $500 put on him by a governor, so he put a $5,000 bounty on the governor. No you. That's not even Jane Leffert's best FU moment in my opinion. He was propositioned by the British, basically hey show us how to navigate the swamps around New Orleans, so we can launch a sneak attack, and the king will pardon you, and make you a privateer. And he was like give me a fortnight to consider it. So he snuck over to the governor's mansion, scaled the outside wall, and was waiting for him on his office. Told the governor and Andrew Jackson the British plan and offer, and how he wouldn't betray New Orleans, because he loved her. So all he asked was for a pardon and he'd give them everything they needed to win the war. And he did. F the British So when France exiles Napoleon Bonaparte, the first time, they didn't think to change out military personnel. So he basically rolls up to the first French outpost he gets to, says, "Sup," and begins reassembling an army. By the time he gets to Paris, he's got enough forces that France is like well, welcome back. Napoleon invited his brother-in-law to speak with him before his coronation as emperor to remind the brother-in-law that he objected to Napoleon marrying Josephine because Napoleon would amount to nothing. I would say the moment that Rollo swore allegiance to the French king, the bishops present suggested that Rollo kiss the king's foot as a sign of submission. It was probably an idea intended to humiliate Rollo and was not taken very well. After some discussion, it was agreed that one of Rollo's men would do it. However, the person chosen lifted the king's foot and, without bending down, brought it up to his mouth. Not surprisingly, the king fell over amid general laughter in the court. Following this amusing scene, the king and his men swore to honor the concession to Rollo. British prisoner of war in Nazi Germany stitches a quilt. The Nazis put it out for show. Hidden in Morse code stitched in were the words F Hitler and God Save the King.
If you want it all, you can get it all. Grubhub.
Restaurants you love delivered.
The 1970s, a small town of Vulcan, West Virginia asked for state funding to replace a bridge into town. The state legislature refused to grant Vulcan the funding they needed. Instead, the town appealed to the Soviet Union for aid. After hearing about the request, the state legislature immediately granted over $1 million for the town to build a new bridge. If a small town in WV asking for Soviet funding in the middle of the Cold War isn't a big middle finger to the state government, then I don't know what is. The funny part is that 2 Soviet representatives at the US Embassy actually came over to look at the broken bridge and seriously considered funding the rebuilding to piss off the Americans. This requires some background. The Spartans were famously blunt. They were trained to get to the point when speaking, instead of using artsy and beautiful language that would have been common at the time, by being bitten on the thumb if they became long-winded. Now to the meat. Philip II of Macedon, Alexander the Great's father, sent the Spartans a letter saying, "Would you like me to enter your land as friend or foe?" The Spartans responded with one word, "Neither." Philip was irate. He then sent another long-winded message. "If once I enter into your territories, I will destroy you all, never to rise again." The Spartans then sent back one word, "If." It was like putting your head in a lion's mouth, and I love it. Galvarino, Chilean warrior who had both his hands cut off by the conquistadors for raising arms against the Spanish. Instead of letting himself serve as a message of helplessness in the face of the invaders, the crazy bastard strapped swords to his stumps and went on the warpath. So this guy was ancient Chilean Wolverine? Wolverino. On the crowning of King Henry VII, he backdated his own reign to before the date of the Battle of Bosworth, meaning anyone who was loyal to him now, but had shown any sign of opposition at Bosworth, was now a traitor and an enemy to the realm. Justice served. This is more petty, but when Taft bragged to his friends via telegram about scaling a mountain on horseback, that it was a few thousand feet, clear weather, all in all not too difficult, his friend replied, "How is horse?" Taft was a chunky boy. In the late 1980s, Nintendo and Sony developed a CD add-on for the Super Nintendo. Nintendo then pulled out of the partnership and opted to work with Philips instead and released the CDI. This move was highly frowned upon because Nintendo had decided to ditch a fellow Japanese company over a foreign one. So Sony picked up the pieces of the project and tried to partner with Sega. The board of directors turned the idea down, saying that's a stupid idea. Sony doesn't know how to make hardware. They don't know how to make software either. Why would we want to do this? At the end, Sony released a game system by the name of PlayStation in 1994 to compete with the Nintendo 64 and outsold their former partners nearly 3-1. Plus, it marked the first time that Nintendo wasn't top dog since they released the Nintendo Entertainment System. When Germanic tribes invaded Britain after the Romans left, they named the native Celts Welsh, meaning foreigner, even though they themselves were the foreigners. That later became the word Welsh, which the English promptly adopted for phrases like Welsh on a bed. TLDR, all of history has been one giant etymological middle finger to the Welsh. The first cell phone. The first call ever made from a cell phone was to a competitor's landline. Big Pages Energy. My personal favorite, the beginning of the Battle of Stamford Bridge, in England, 1066. England's been invaded by a Norwegian army led by Harold Hardrada, King of Norway, and Tostig Godwinson, exiled English earl, and estranged brother to the English king. They've already fought one battle, they've captured York. Things are looking good for them. They're chilling, enjoying their success, waiting at Stamford Bridge for the hostages they demanded. It's a hot day. They're not expecting any trouble. But wait, an English army shows up. That's practically impossible. The Battle of Fulford Gate had taken place only 5 days ago, and the Norwegians had completely routed the forces of the Northern Earls. The rest of the English army was known to be in the south, awaiting a Norman invasion. Turns out the English had ridden all the way up north in 4 days. The Norwegians were, understandably, a bit unhappy. They form into a circle. They don't have their armor with them, it's at the ships. It's too hot to be hanging around in mail. They've got helmets and shields and weaponry, and that's it. The English send a rider to negotiate. He tells Tostig that his brother the king is willing to offer him his earldom back and part of the rule of England if he gives up now. Tostig asks what his buddy Harold Hardrada gets for his trouble. 6 feet of English ground, or as much more as he needs, being taller than other men. Tostig says they are done here. The rider rides away. Harold Hardrada asks who that dude was, because if it had been him talking, he'd have just used the bastard there. Tostig says, oh, that's my brother. That's Harold Godwinson, the king. Harold Godwinson rode up to an enemy army personally and told the king of Norway. Known to be a great warrior and general, that all he'd get from this invasion was a grave. Battle commences. Norwegians lose. Tostig and Harold Hardrada both die. Huge bloody mess. English army is crippled. And then 3 days later the Normans land in the south. Harold is effed. He still marches his army back, gathers as much force as he can, and engages 3 weeks later. He's given the not alive at Hastings. Normans conquer England. Basically a very personal FU moment that snowballed quite intensely. The reply of the Zaporozhian Cossacks is the best response to a demand for surrender ever. In response to requests by the Sultan of the Ottoman Empire to desist attacks and submit, Zaporozhian Cossacks to the Turkish Sultan. O Sultan, Turkish devil and am devil's kith and kin, secretary to Lucifer himself. What the devil kind of knight art thou that canst not slay a hedgehog with your naked ass? The devil poops, and your army eats. Thou shalt not, thou son of a whore, make subjects of Christian sons. We have no fear of your army. By land and by sea we will battle with thee. F thy mother. Thou Babylonian scullion, Macedonian wheelwright, brewer of Jerusalem, goat lover of Alexandria, swineherd of Greater and Lesser Egypt, pig of Armenia, Podolian thief, catamite of Tartary, hangman of Kamianets, and fool of all the world and underworld, an idiot before God, grandson of the serpent, and the Krikinardic, pig snout, mare's ass, slaughterhouse cur, unchristened bro, screw thine own mother. So the Zaporozhians declare, you lowlife, you won't even be herding pigs for the Christians. Now we'll conclude, for we don't know the date, and don't own a calendar, the moon's in the sky, the year with the Lord, the day's the same over here as it is over there, for this kiss our ass. Kashovai Otam and Ivan Serko, with the whole Zaporozhian host. There's a painting of this moment with all the Cossacks.
More unlimited plans to mix and match, starting at just $35. The network more people rely on gives you more.
Welcome to Undertale Comic TV. Make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. That way you'll never miss a video. Enjoy! Sir Sam's? Morning, sunshine. You know where you are? What? Well, I know for sure that I'm not in my house. And neither in Snowden, so I don't know. Wait. Don't tell me that we're in Disney World! No, you're in a police station. Close enough. Do you know why you're here? Do you know what you guys did last night? Last night? Oh yeah, last night. Do you remember what you did? Not much. Everything is confusing. Maybe the others can tell you. Speaking of, where are they? They're in separate rooms. Why? Well, we have some complications.
You alive?
I'm drunk when I say I'm drunk! Sir, please, calm down! You calm down!
Hey guys, let's take a selfie.
Huh? You look so cute, Chara.
This is literally the best photo I've ever seen. Aw.
You're filled with desperation.
Sans, don't read the newspaper without buying it, you barbarian.
Bad news. The crossword lady's on vacation. No new ones for at least a week.
That is the opposite of a problem.
I know how we can get some crosswords. We just have to interrupt Undyne trying to solve a puzzle.
Stop corrupting my friends!
Crosswords! 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 You don't mind?
You're all alone? That's so sad. Don't
Yo, man, want some chocolate on your fries?
Ew, that's gross. Yes, please. Hey, dude, want some ketchup on your chocolate?
Now that's disgusting. Lol, sure.